there a correlation between any of the characteristics of these UAPs, UFOs?
What we tend to see are the smaller vehicles tend to be, think of a sports car. The large ones tend to be not always, but almost exclusively either triangular shape or boomerang shape.
Werewolves? I see dead people walking around like regular people. They don't see each other. They only see what they want to see. They don't know they're dead.
How often do you see them?
All the time. They're everywhere.
The UFO, UAP community was fairly surprised. Shocked might be a better word.
Do you think there is life on other planets?
Well, I'm not quite sure, but I suppose there would be.
Oh, I've seen a flying saucer.
You've seen one?
Yes,
When
definitely. At Lane Cove,
When was this?
1953.
You don't think this is a figment of your imagination?
Several other people with me saw it.
I'm not doing that. Oh, let's stay with me.
The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
There is now a new UFO whistleblower with some major bombshell level statements.
There is very compelling evidence that we may not be alone.
MUFON series with Michigan State Director Bill Konkolesky. Episode 66 of the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters Podcast Live Edition. Welcome to the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters Podcast, where we explore the unexplained and mysterious phenomena that have occurred throughout the state of Michigan and beyond.
From UFO sightings to ghostly encounters, we delve deep into the stories, the evidence, and the theories behind these strange events.
We are your hosts. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Wayne.
We are an educator duo that after an encounter with a triangular UFO in 2018 in Michigan, we decided to investigate UFOs and the paranormal. In this podcast, we will be speaking with eyewitnesses, experts, and researchers to uncover the truth about some of the most intriguing cases of paranormal activity in and around Michigan.
Our goal is not to convince anyone of the existence of these phenomena, but rather to provide a platform for discussion and exploration. So, buckle up and join us on this journey down the paranormal rabbit hole.
On an escalator.
All right, and we are live. Welcome, everyone, to another live edition of the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters Podcast, live edition. Today is the 9th of September, 2023. Hey, Michelle, it's 9/9. Ooh.
Hey.
And it's time to settle in on this Saturday evening as we get ready to bring on our guest for this evening, the Michigan State Director of MUFON, Bill Konkolesky. Before we bring Bill on, I want to bring on my lovely wife and co-host. There she is, Michelle.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, we got a very lively chat going on, and we have some great people out there. So we're going to say our hellos to you soon. But for those of you listening to this at a later date on your favorite podcasting platform, you can catch the show live and participate in the live chat. We currently stream on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. We have some of the best live chats on this topic around, so come on in and enjoy the live show. After the airing of this live stream, we will be releasing this on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Audible, and many others.
Well, we've got to give a quick hello to the folks in the chat that have joined us this evening. We have Diane out there somewhere, Diane B. We've got Straw Dog. We've got Danny Staton. We've got Mike J, Guy Merritt. Let's see, who else? We've got Lisa. Lisa's listening tonight. So, and I'm sure that some others are going to creep on in.
Of course.
As the night goes on.
Yep. And what else do we got, Michelle, that you want to let people know about?
I don't know, Wayne.
It's right there in the list, right under the hellos.
Oh, very, very funny. So I just wanted to say that this live show and podcast happens because of you. Everybody will notice my little tagline under my name. I'm wondering what sleep is. I'm very sleep deprived right now. So, but because of you, the viewers and listeners of the show, the amazing support, if you want to help support the podcast, the links are below in the show description with our PayPal, our Patreon. Linktree will take you to all other ways. And now we can accept super chats and super stickers during the live shows. So
Absolutely.
YouTube is playing nicely with us. You can also become a member on YouTube as well. But one of the best ways you can always support the show is to like, share, and subscribe. Absolutely. The more subscribers and support that we have, the more incredible content and folks we can bring on.
And it seems like right after we hit that 1,000 supporter number, the algorithm kind of started passing us out a little bit more, and we ended up with an extra few hundred subscribers. So
I know it's crazy how the little number portals open up with YouTube.
Yep. And we also need to give a couple of shout outs to our Patreon members. We got Tabin R, Hava H, and Lisa B. Thank you guys for being Patreon members. We really appreciate you very much. But we also have to give a special thanks to our very first YouTube member, Diane Boss. So Diane is the boss. So thank you very much, Diane, for your continued support. And all of you, thank you for your support. So we're really happy that you have decided to join us tonight. So something else that happened that was really cool recently was I want to give a special shout out and thank you to our good friend Micah Hanks of the Micah Hanks program. I was fortunate enough in the summertime in June to meet Micah in person at the 2023 Cosmic Summit with Randall Carlson and all those fine people there, and was able to talk to Micah for a couple hours. And time went by like nobody's business as we chatted for a long time during the night. And I was able to tell him about our encounter and experience in 2018 here in Southeast Michigan. And it wasn't but just a couple weeks ago, he reached out and invited us on his program. So if you want to hear that interview that we did, go ahead and hit the links down in the show description, and you will see a link to the Micah Hanks program. And the show that we did with him was called Incident at Ford Road. So
yeah, all we can say is that episode is getting some special attention, and that's all we can say.
Well, we can say a little bit more.
You say. I'm not going to say it.
You know what? Maybe I shouldn't say it, but a certain a certain person with the last name Mellon has taken interest in our case, and I'll just leave it at that. So I'll let everybody else
Mine
do
just
the
leaked a lot more than I was going to.
All right. I say, let's go ahead and get on with this show and bring our guest on for tonight. What do you think, Michelle? Are you ready? I think the audience is ready.
Absolutely. We've had chat going since, I think, this afternoon.
Yeah, it's been people talking already like hours before we even started the show, which is
I think it was
first.
one of those chat groups that Messenger creates after a post goes through, because I've seen that in some groups that I'm in, and seems one took place, all kinds of
don't know how that
information
group actually got started on Facebook, or the group chat for this show on Facebook got started, but I'm going to tell you, I'm glad that it did.
We got some good stuff out of it,
because somebody sent us some great photos and a couple of videos of a UAP they captured outside the window of their house, and I want to show them to Bill. So this could be a great topic of conversation. And the person also told us that they have not put in a MUFON report. So maybe Bill later can talk about how you go about doing that. So anyways, let's get on with this.
Well, hang tight. We've got to say hello to Janine and Taben, who have joined us tonight.
Yeah.
In
welcome.
Chat.
Yeah. We're glad you guys are here. But over the years, there have been many organizations that have existed for the investigation of UFOs, especially in the U.S. government. So we have Project Blue Book, we've had Project Sign, Project Grudge, the Condon Committee, and even more recently, we've had the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, also known as ATIP. And now we have the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO. And even NASA is getting into the picture with NASA's UAP Independent Study Team. With all that said, there has been an organization, a civilian organization, that since 1969 has been investigating UFOs for over 50 years. And that organization is MUFON. And tonight we have with us live the Michigan State Director of MUFON and author of Experiencer 1 and Experiencer 2, Bill Konkolesky.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Hey, welcome, man. We are so glad to have you back on the show to chat with us. And man, this is perfect for the month of MUFON. So we're doing a series because we're going to have one of your colleagues on later this month. But for those of the people out there who are new listeners that just come onto the YouTube channel and watch the show and maybe don't follow the previous episodes that we've done with our audio podcast, can you give us a little bit of background on yourself and how you came to be the state director of the Michigan MUFON chapter?
Okay. So I have had several unusual experiences through my lifetime, and some of them, many of them UFO related. One particular UFO event that happened to me and a couple buddies back in 1989 when we were high school seniors was what actually brought me to MUFON. We were in his Chevette, the three of us. We were waiting for another friend to get home from work. This is in Sterling Heights, Michigan. It's about 9 p.m. February. It's dark. And as we're sitting there in the car, at about the height of 2 telephone poles, this bright blue light slowly drifts over our car. The light itself is about the size of a car, and it just slowly moves over the car. And then when that disappears, a white light comes and zips all over the entirety of the sky. And then that disappears. And then a red light appears in the middle of the sky, grows to the size of the full moon, which is quite large, and then shrinks again and disappears. And so we're sitting there and wondering what to do. One of my friends says, maybe we should tell the police. Like, okay, we're high school seniors, out, let's tell the police we saw a UFO and see where that gets us. and then the other friend says, let's tell it to Selfridge Air National Guard Base, which wasn't that many miles away. And I'm like, wait a second, you're not going to tell the police, but you're going to tell the military? So we didn't know who to tell. And a few years later, recounting what happened to a friend of mine in college, she said, "Hey, did you know that there's a place in Chicago called the Center for UFO Studies? They would probably like to hear your story." So on a trip to Chicago, not long after, I stopped in and saw Dr. Mark Rodiger, and I told him my story. And he's like, "That's great. Did you tell your state MUFON chapter?" And I'm like, "MUFON, what's that?" And so he gave me the contact information of the state director at the time, Shirley Coyne. This was 1993. So I went back to Michigan, contacted her, told her about this particular sighting, told her about other things I saw. She was very receptive, and we got along quite well. And I joined in 93. I joined MUFON in 93. And so it's been 30 years I've been with MUFON, and I've been state director since 2004. So just about 20 years as state director. And so, yeah, I've been all in on MUFON for quite some time. And MUFON, thanks for saying nice things about the organization. A couple other things important besides that we've been around since 1969 is there currently are over 5,000 paying members in the organization, and we are in over 40 countries.
Oh, fantastic. I did not know about the 40 countries thing. I figured there was probably a few, but man, 40, that's great.
Yeah.
Well,
and one more just little thing
sure.
too, which is kind of exciting, is that, of course, what MUFON is about is people report UFO sightings to us and we investigate them. And we also, of course, train UFO field investigators. Since 2010, we've had our most recent edition of our database. And since that 2010 startup of our most recent database, MUFON internationally has collected over 100,000 unique UFO sightings. And these aren't ones that we just cherry pick off the internet or something like that. Every single one of those sighting reports represents somebody coming to us and making their report. Michigan gets about, on average, about 200 sightings a year. But internationally, since 2010, that's how much MUFON has taken in.
Well, one of our very first guests on our show back in 2021, and now good friend Guy Merritt, says Shirley came to my house. So I take it when he had his experience in 94, he actually had Shirley at his house and deal with his encounter, which was crazy. And people, go check out our episode number 4 if you want to know what happened with Guy. And he's been on many other shows of ours, but that was the first one. And it always like rips the heart out of me listening to that story. It's very shocking and I guess eye-opening is what I would want to say, because of what happened with me and Michelle. So all right, Michelle had something.
Well, we have a friend and a loyal viewer that would like to know what the qualifications are to become an investigator for MUFON.
Okay, so you have to be, there's the state level organization, and then there's the international level organization. You have to be a member of international, which requires a paid membership. There's several different levels for that. But once you do become a member, then there is field investigator training. This can be done either online. We have something called MUFON University. It's its own website full of UFO investigator training. And then we also, as an alternative, have a physical book for field investigator training. You make your way through the training material, take an exam, and if you score well enough, then you become qualified to become an investigator. And whatever state or province or country you're in, the people that are the chief at the chief investigator level will then select investigators, maybe based on geography or other factors, on who would follow up with an investigation. And that's how that works.
Okay, most excellent. Now, how much does it normally cost to become a member? Do you know the different levels to join MUFON?
Okay, so as the short answer is no. There are different levels, and they do change periodically.
Okay.
And so I don't want to say something and have somebody say, "What the heck? They just went up $10." Now, as a state director, my membership fee is waived. We don't get paid, but by no means, and it's one of the small perks we have. So I'm not sure offhand. I don't want to be like that story where a certain politician running for president didn't know what the price of bread was, and everyone got on their case. Yeah, I just don't know what the price of bread is.
Anita in chat says, I'm taking MUFON investigator training right now. I recommend doing it online with MUFON University. That's excellent. So, well done. Keep going. Get it done. All right. Let's see. Now, something big just recently happened with MUFON, and you guys wrapped up your 2023 symposium. Can you give us some highlights as to what went down there and any takeaways for this year?
Okay, so interestingly, I did not attend the symposium, although it was in Cincinnati. It was just a few hours drive from me. Prior to MUFON planting a flag on whatever date they were going to have their symposium this year, I'd already been invited to speak at the Michigan Paranormal Convention up in Sault Ste. Marie. So I attended Michigan Paracon, and part of what made me feel justified in the value of that is at a MUFON convention, I'm a MUFON guy amongst many other MUFON people at this conference. But at the Michigan Paracon, I am the UFO guy. I am the one speaking, spreading the word about the organization, about the phenomena, and I felt I was able to do a lot more good speaking at a group of open-minded people that may not necessarily be part of the organization, rather than just being embedded, rubbing shoulders with other people within the same organization.
Okay, well, tell us a little bit about the Michigan Paracon. How'd that go?
Oh, it's always phenomenal. It is a great big deal. A lot of fun, and it continues to grow in size. The scope of the presenters across the spirit world, cryptid hunters, just all sorts of, it's a big umbrella for all things paranormal. And so it's great because, me siloed somewhat in the UFO phenomena, I get to hear some of the great speakers that are doing really good work in some of the other areas too.
Yeah. Michelle, I don't know. Do you think this one might be a good time for us to read the latest email we received from a listener that has a story? I figured this would be good to share with Bill.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So, Bill, we get emails and stuff all the time with people sharing their stories, and then recently some photos and videos here that when you talked about your experience, I think you're going to see some similarities that you had years ago in Sterling Heights to what a listener sent us, which this is, again, just by happenstance that this was sent to us today. But here's a story from somebody. He sent this to us a few days ago, and Michelle is going to take over here.
It was right after he had listened to the Micah Hanks interview. So this is what we had received. It says, it was the weekend of the youth hunt in September of 2019 here in Gladwin County, actually just about 6 miles east of Beaverton. My daughter and I were sitting on a bean field facing the west. As the sun was coming up from behind us, I was watching the stars disappear in the west as it was a clear sky. I noticed this bright white light coming towards us from the northwest. It was not very high. I would say only a couple 100 feet from the ground. It moved very slowly as it came over the field. There was no noise. It finally gets over the field, maybe 100 yards from us, and it stops and just hovers in the position for maybe 2 minutes. Then it slowly goes down closer to the ground and then shoots back up fairly quickly. Still no sound, and I can't make out a shape because the light was extremely bright, even as the sun is shining brighter now. It moves towards us and starts to go up and down probably 6 or 7 times. It finally shoots back up to a couple 100 feet and is now coming right to us. It's now 50 yards in front of us, just hovering, shining the light into our eyes. So naturally, we just sat there staring back at it in amazement and a little freaked out. I thought maybe it was a drone and someone around us was messing with us. But again, no sound at all. It finally started to go over top of us, and I watched it slowly disappear. It was a gray color with 3 white lights and no other markings. I thought about taking my daughter's gun and shooting at it, but something told me not to. I've told a few guys about this at work, and they are clueless about what it was. I've been wanting to write about this on the page for a while, but kept putting it off. I figured it was time to share my experience. We are not alone. There is too much unexplained stuff happening more and more every day. I'd love to answer any questions that, any of us have about his occurrence.
Yeah. Now, Bill, 20 years as the MUFON state director here in Michigan. I mean, I'm assuming you've probably read and heard lots of things like this. What would you make of something like this? And what would your investigators do? Or would this be worth investigating?
Oh, absolutely worth an investigation. And sometimes I don't like to say too much up front and then have someone feel satisfied, and then we don't have that great case as part of our database.
Perfect.
So please, first and foremost, I'd say definitely submit the sighting and have an investigator do something in depth. It is chilling the way it was described. There are a lot of things, of course, that run through our mind where you say, can I knock this out in 10 seconds? Does it sound like anything an aircraft could do? Is there anything celestial that could account for it? Could it potentially be a drone? Chinese lantern, sky lantern, all these sort of things, Starlink satellites, and then all of a sudden it's none of those. And then that's where the investigation certainly begins. There are, certainly a handful of questions I know an investigator would ask. I don't want to front load the investigation, but I do hope that they do report it and that it can go further, because right now I'm very excited to hear what additionally might come out of an investigation from this.
Yep.
Well, the fact that he said that it went up and down 6 or 7 times, and then like that overall feeling, or when he said something told him not to shoot at it with his daughter's gun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know that I was going to say, I know that that sensation of seeing something that shouldn't be there and then receiving a direct message. Yeah.
Yeah. Along with like the most terrifying emotions going through you that you can possibly imagine, this, I think, to get us out of there. But I don't know, for me, at least, the damage was done. And now here I am. So, for better or worse, I'm hooked into investigating this and doing this show. So Bob, if you are listening, which I'm pretty sure that you are, please make sure you do fill out, even this is from September 2019, fill out a MUFON report and get in touch with, or an investigator will get in touch with you and describe and answer questions and get that information into the database. And he's also very interested in other people that were in Gladwin County at that time in September of 2019, if anybody else saw it. And, Bill, that's been a big thing for us to kind of reconcile what we've had to deal with, is getting that sense of community that we're not the only ones that have had something strange happen to them, or to see something that basically changed their lives. And this thing has really propelled Michelle and I in a totally different direction as educators, as a science teacher myself, as an English teacher. you know, Michelle, this was like the last thing we would have ever thought of to do or anything like that. And yet here we are. Do you have other examples of people that have changed their total track of life, where they were thinking they were going or what they were doing, and then this has now changed their direction?
Oh, so many, sure. One thing that also came to mind, a detail about the sighting that you just mentioned that I want to bring up. During the big 1966 UFO flap of Southeast Michigan, at the Hillsdale College campus, it was March 21st, 1966 to be exact. A UFO was spotted over the ball field there, hovering up and down. It went up and down several times, had a series of lights on it, and before it took off. And to that particular sighting, there were 89 witnesses in a group watching it, for one thing. So many corroborating witnesses to the same exact sighting of a UFO slowly bobbing up and down. One thing I will say about jumping back to the point about people just dropping everything, changing everything, and diving in is because some people don't even have this, excuse the pun, on their radar. Some people have whatever degree of interest in it, but when you see something that isn't questionable, that is definitively different, otherworldly, or maybe even if it's technology that the military holds that it's, keeping secret. When you see something that's impossible, the question is no longer, is this real? The question is, what does this mean? And, I always say there's two big questions that we have as a species. One of them is what happens after we die. The other one is, are we alone in the universe? And it really, for some people, it taps that part of them, it activates them, it drives them to say, okay, this changes everything. And I can't just quarantine it someplace. I can't just set it aside. I can't just be quiet. I just can't let this go because, at the deepest core, it changes everything. And I want to jump in with a quote that I think ties into this nicely. Back during the 1800s, there was a physicist. Oh gosh, why am I blanking on his name? His first name was William, of course. That's the part I remember. But he was somebody that had a lot of great physics laudits to him, and he was a big deal in the scientific community. But he also was into ghost hunting and mediumship, things like that. And when he was prodded by his peers to say, hey, stop, looking into this other phenomena, you're embarrassing us. And, and they said, you can't possibly be looking into this other stuff that is impossible. And he said his response was, well, I never said it was possible. I only said it was true. So, maybe you can't bridge that jump from your mindset, the scientific paradigm, everything that the whole world tells you should be and shouldn't be. But then you see it. You see the impossible, and it is real. Never said it was possible, only said it was real.
Well, first of all, everybody, if you're listening to this, we are currently on with the Michigan MUFON State Director, Bill Konkolesky. And if you want to find MUFON online, it simply is MUFON.com. So head on over there and check everything out. Enjoy the website. It's quite extensive. So, and you can put in reports there of any sightings that you have. So I guess, I was just talking to Michelle before we started the show about the recent stuff that's been going on in Washington, D.C. with the subcommittee hearing that happened in July. And the three witnesses that were brought forth. We had Ryan Graves, David Fravor, and then David Grusch, and he was the kind of the spotlight / monkey in the middle during those hearings, and just really dropping some bombshells in there, because he was basically investigating where money was going as part of the UAP task force. He was looking around, finding out where was all this money going to, and getting told some really crazy things that, like there's crash retrieval programs and alien biologics that they may have found and all of this stuff. So I guess, the first thing I want to do is kind of get what your reaction was to that testimony. And watching that, I was blown away. And at first, until I saw that hearing, Grusch for me was kind of a wild card. Like, he could be a plant, he could just be mentally ill in a position of, working intelligence, which I don't know if they do that very much. But when I saw him testify, and I've always believed Fravor and I always believed Graves, because they're highly trained aviators of some of our most advanced weapon systems out there. F-18 fighter pilots are top of the line. But what was your reaction to the testimony? And then could you give us a pulse of what the reaction of MUFON as an organization, how the organization reacted to what was being said during this committee hearing?
Oh, sure. First of all, it was William Crookes. It came back to me, the physicist. Thanks. Okay. So the David Grusch, that's the way my brain works, huh? So David Grusch came at a very interesting time. First of all, they had the congressional hearings where they, were asking, the questions and getting very tepid responses. And then following up that very shortly was NASA and their big 4-hour to do about, we're going to use these tools to possibly look for life somewhere out there. And then David Grusch comes in and essentially says, hold my beer. We got crash, we got vehicles, we got bodies, and I'm ready to go before Congress, and just completely blowing things up. I thought, to anybody that's really in this space and really paying attention, this was seismic. This was huge. And so then, come to his revelations, and come the hearing that he had, the one that you brought up. Yeah, it was wonderful. And on one hand, though, you got to admit, it was him just saying, yeah, I know more people. I'll tell you about it off camera. Yeah, I know where all of these things are. I'll tell you about it off camera.
Right.
Yeah, et cetera, et cetera. And from what you hear, he did lay out a great deal of names and places and details of content to those doing the hearing, those people in office. And then there were sort of crickets afterwards. And you hear there's these little pop-up stories every once in a while saying that, things like they looked into some of his claims and maybe they weren't real, or another story is that they are real, but the people in Congress are being stonewalled to try to get access to some of these people and some of these locations to get that information out of them. But, what I find happens a lot with stories like this that are really big is that time passes and there's a large chunk of people who come to the false assumption, that since they're not hearing more, that the story's been discredited. Yep. And so, unfortunately, time is on the side of those trying to put up resistance. They feel they can run out the clock. If they can drag out the story long enough, people will say, well, this wasn't as big of a deal as they thought, because, more information isn't necessarily coming out. What you need is a good stream of follow-up on this. Now, I think that more is coming. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I do think that he probably did do something that is going to have a follow-up that'll have more meat on it that is released to the public. But he went and he made a formal complaint. He went before Congress, and his testimony could be perjury if he is lying. And so, he really put himself out for this. And if he didn't really have anything to back it up, then this really is thin soup. But he claims to, and we just aren't privy to it. But I have a strong faith that what he did is pushing things in the right direction, especially after all of these, I'll just say it's news fests with these congressional hearings and these reports and the NASA thing. I think he and the other two gentlemen did a lot to properly shake things up, to escalate it.
Yeah, and I hear the what do I want to say? I hear the debunkers, right? Or the people that will talk about David Grusch is not to be trusted because, well, he's former intelligence. But then again, people say he's credible because he's former intelligence and he's working in such, classified systems. But it really boils down to like the evidence. And I guess, unless you've seen something yourself and experienced it, what is enough evidence? What is it that it's going to take to really get people to understand that there's stuff going on here that we're blind to? Some of us have had our eyes opened, and some of us didn't want our eyes opened to this. I mean, we didn't even think it was a real thing until you see a 300-foot triangle hovering above the road and hearing a voice that says, "Get away, you don't belong here, get away." And then you start having medical issues. I don't know anybody like that except myself, but you know what I mean? It's like, what is it going to take to get people to wake up to this? And what kind of evidence do you think it's going to take?
Yeah, it's tough. So many people have tied their cart to government disclosure. And the problem with that is that the irony of that is that whenever a government official says anything, whenever a politician says anything, the first gut response is, "I don't believe it, and I don't trust you." Just go on YouTube and, all these videos of any politician, type in the name of anybody in any office anywhere, and you just see things that discredit them. And people don't like to hear from them. People don't like the government, just to put it very simply. And then they're like, and now tell us about UFOs. As if somebody was going to say, at that point, now I believe you because you're talking about UFOs. I didn't like you before. I didn't believe you before. But now please tell me about this subject I'm interested in.
100%.
Yeah. So it's a trap. It's a trap. So it really does boil down to personal encounters, personal evidence, direct evidence that way. Big thing too is that sometimes, I'll talk to my neighbors about some of the stuff I've seen, and they have this look on their face like, "Wow, this is really weird. You're coming across as credible." But the thing is that if you haven't seen a UFO, if you've never really believed in UFOs, it's just something that you don't even think about at all. And then somebody tells you a really good UFO story, then they're in a position where if they believe you, then by just this sort of story from somebody else, they're up against the wall of, do I change the way I think about everything based upon this story that you told me? on one hand, I believe you, but on the other hand, if I believe you, then suddenly I'm a believer in UFOs. Then suddenly I have to weigh that belief in life, possibly from elsewhere, affecting everything, every aspect of my life, my religion, what I think about our place in the universe, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really tough to be a second hand believer, because you have the luxury of believing or not believing because you haven't seen it yourself. And it's those who have had that direct contact that that question is off the table. You just know something is happening.
Yeah. Well, we need to give a quick shout out to Ghost Dragon ZW in the chat for sending us a donation through PayPal. Thank you very much, Ghost Dragon. It is much appreciated.
Ghost Dragon.
And much love to you and Gemma out there, Miss Gemma Jade, one of our favorite psychics we like to have on the show. So thank you very much. Man, chat's really kicking. Bill, you're getting a lot of highs. Yay, it's Bill in chat. So a lot of people happy that you are here and having this chat with us.
Well, and and I see a couple of the conversations and couldn't agree more. Like, Lisa had said about it's going to take a mass sighting for people to, truly believe what's going on. But then Anita, who's going through MUFON University, or no, I'm sorry, it was Janice, said the first mass sighting may be a false flag, like our own UFOs, anything that's been kind of remastered. So viewer discretion.
Yeah.
But she says time will come when the real stuff.
Bill, do you think I've heard a lot about the false flag thing, and it's ours and stuff, TR3B and all this stuff. I don't buy it, but what I am starting to envision and buy in this situation is, could military people, government officials, scientists, or whatever, be having experiences with these things, get that itch, not to figure out what it is that they saw, but try to replicate it to make that happen. Like seeing a piece of artwork, if you're an artist and it inspires you to make your own piece of art in a certain way. Now, I'm not thinking about building a giant flying triangle. I want to find out what that was, but I'm wondering how many of these things may have actually triggered innovation in humans after seeing them. Have you ever looked into anything like that and or heard of people that have, or talked to people that have started innovating things that are completely out of the ordinary? Just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Okay, so starting at the beginning, I guess, of what you had said, the premise that some of the things out there are not ours. I do think that some of them are. I'm not saying that what we have is as good as what might be visiting us from somewhere else, but I am. Here's a few things, right? So when you look at you go rewind more than 50 years ago, we landed on the moon. If we landed on the moon, right? I'm not jumping in there, but but so with the assumption that we did, then how far have we come in 50 years? Now you compare it to just computer technology in general. Computers at that time were these massive things, filled up an entire room. Now there is more computing power on my watch, my wristwatch, than there is, on those computers that filled an entire room. So you look at the arc of technology and compare it with the arc of aerospace. And what have we had since the moon landings? Well, we had a couple space shuttles. Those were kind of cool, I guess. And then we have this share time in low orbit with the space station. And that's about it. We haven't half a century, and we haven't had human exploration outside of orbit. So And then where is, when you make these comparisons, we should be, if the comparison is right to our technological advancements and everything else, we should be zipping around at least the solar system, no problem at this point. But we're not, unless we are, and unless this technology is being kept secret. So then you have to look at the logistics of it. Could the military keep something like this a secret? Well, it's possible. Now, I point to this example. So the stealth helicopter did not exist until one crashed in Pakistan during the bin Laden raid. That was a top secret aircraft. The government, the military, pardon me, had something nobody knew existed, but it was real. And then when one crashed, oh yeah, we do have that. So if we have that, what are the odds that we have other stuff? We know now that they are constructing things in secret, deploying things in secret, and that there's a budget clearly that is behind putting these aircraft together. And like that one time Rumsfeld said something like what there was a calculating error of they lost $4 trillion out of the military budget that one year or something like that. And so tons of money is going somewhere, and we do have an example of a top secret aircraft that was revealed only through the fact that it got into an accident. So I think there is something that is beyond public knowledge that is flying around out there. How good it is, we don't know because it's secret, but probably good enough so that people see it in the sky and think, well, that's not a normal airplane. What is that? So I do think that there is stuff out there. And, there might be some people trying to emulate what they see and say, well, if somebody from somewhere else is flying something to our planet, it's probably got to have some sort of exotic technology. Let me mess with magnetism or other things and see what they can do. Sure, why not? I see that as a possibility, I guess.
Yeah, I totally forgot about the whole stealth helicopter thing. I think that was being used by SEAL Team 6 when they went after bin Laden during that bin Laden raid. So, yeah, there's definitely things out there that we don't know exist. I guess I'm very interested in knowing where the inspiration has come from for some of these scientists and things to create the things that they do. And I know there has been talk about certain things way back in the 30s and 40s being created, or even the 50s, that were created after the crash of Roswell, and those materials started to get examined. I don't know how much truth there is to that. I don't know, Bill, has MUFON ever dug back in the past to see and talk to people about any of the previous reports like that?
It's tough because, we are an all-volunteer army. Certainly, being an all-volunteer army, we have people part of the organization that have connections. But it isn't anything like if we went knocking on some military door somewhere saying, MUFON, let us in, Yeah. That's not going to get us very far. Though I will say previous international director Jan Harzen said that he heard directly from Ben Rich from Skunkworks that his quote was, "We currently have the technology to take ET home." So
yeah,
that was.
I heard that same thing from Ben Rich's good friend Jim Goodall, who we've had on here a couple times and has become a good friend of ours. And he used to talk with him quite often, and he would say things like, "Oh yeah, we've been there, done that." You're watching stuff on sci-fi and Star Wars and stuff, and he's like, "Yeah, that's not a big deal." So, but all right, everybody in chat, thank you very much. We're seeing you guys still alive and kicking in there. And we recently had It's Savannah join us. So welcome, It's Savannah. Janice is here. And
Metalhead has joined us.
Yeah, Metalhead has joined us. So welcome, Metalhead. Glad to see you. Let's see. I want to save the pictures and the video we received today. I want to save that to after the break. So I want to throw it out there to people in chat real quick. Does anybody got a quick question they want to fire away at Bill with? I know I'm interested. Has the government reached out to you guys as of recently with and asked you guys for help or information or?
Oh, sure. Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
So that first congressional hearing, the representative from Indiana, every question that he asked was written for him by MUFON. So we do have some governmental ties. Definitely have their ear. Kristen Gillibrand, Tim Burchett, others are individuals that MUFON works with and provides information to.
Lisa, just so you know, Bill did describe something that happened to him when he was younger in high school, a UFO situation that he saw. And if you want to go back in the start of the show, he explains that a little bit. So, yeah, you can find out what really drove him into this field and looking at things. I want to say about probably 10 minutes into the show. So one of the first questions we asked. So, yep. If anybody else has a sighting or anything as well, don't forget our email address is right there. It's mi.ufo.podcast@gmail.com. And Ghost Dragon has a question. Michelle, what is that question?
Ghost Dragon asks, how many calls do you actually get that lead to something?
Okay, so all right, so in Michigan, again, we get about 200 sightings a year, and on a good year, we can identify about 95% of what comes into us. Be it the list of things I mentioned before: celestial objects, aircraft, drones, Starlink satellites, other satellites, sky lanterns, Chinese lanterns, and a lot of things. And sometimes it's photographic. People will take a picture of something, say, I didn't see this when I took the picture, but what do you think of this in the picture? That sort of thing. So when we can identify about 95% of what comes into us in a year where we get 200 sightings, that means every year we get like 10 good sightings, 10 really good sightings, and things that couldn't be explained easily at all. And so that's what keeps us going, the exciting stuff like that.
Bill, I was wondering how many of those reports that you guys get are actual abduction cases. I've always wondered that.
Well, the MUFON from its very beginning was developed to investigate sightings of distant things or things in the sky. And what MUFON has done historically is refine that sort of approach. And so when somebody has a UFO sighting, for example, it's very easy to do sort of a checkbox to start off. Like, it was this size, it was this color, it moved this fast, I saw it for this long, etc. But when somebody has a contact experience, what they are submitting to us is a long description of a very detailed event where checkbox just doesn't do it. And because it's a whole different beast, we have a separate group that called the Experiencer Resource Team that looks into those particular types of sightings. Okay. And those type of sightings actually get counted separately from that 200 number that I give. And so if this is something that MUFON is going to do going forward, we are certainly seeing more experiencer accounts as time goes on, and the way things at these cases are handled might change. But like I said, the organization was developed to look at things in the sky, and now we're getting all sorts of experiencer accounts, and we're doing our best to cover both lanes. And many times people will have a UFO sighting, obviously, and not see an entity. Some people will see an entity, but not a UFO. And, and sometimes they'll see a UFO and an entity. So there are those slight differences and going on too, and trying to figure out how to investigate them is sometimes a challenge.
Yeah. Real quick, Lisa Bowden sent in a $5 super chat. She says, "This is now my go-to show. Thank you both. Great job keeping things real." Lisa, thank you very much. We are trying our best, even as busy as we are with the start of a new school year, and tired and things. This gets us fired up, and your super chat is awesome. So thank you very much. We very much appreciate that. I think what we should do right now, we're at the 1 hour mark. Why don't we go ahead and take about a 4-minute break? As everybody knows, we are here with Michigan State Director of MUFON, Bill Konkolesky. And maybe when we come back from break, we can talk a little bit about your experience with the people over at Netflix doing the Something in the Sky Unsolved Mysteries. And we have a mutual friend in Jack Bouchon. We can talk about his case and what went on there a little bit for people that are new to knowing what's going on here in Michigan and what has gone on. And see if we can get some more questions coming in from chat. So, hey, welcome Diane Boss, our first and only current member right now. So thank you once again. It's good to see you here. But all right, everybody. So Bill, we're going to go ahead and take off for about 5 minutes or so and stretch your legs, get a drink, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. All right, Michelle, are you ready for a break?
Yeah, let's take a 5-minute break.
As soon as Diane shows up, we're going to take off
I
for
know,
a break.
we take a break as soon as Diane shows up.
Well, Diane, I'm going to tell you something. This has been the kind of show, and everybody out there, the kind of show that I've wanted for a long time. This has turned out fantastic, better than I could have expected how everything would go tonight. And we really appreciate you guys all here. But we're going to go ahead and take a break. I need to get some more water because my voice from talking and teaching for the last 2 weeks.
I think Guy and I probably both need to run and go get some more coffee.
Yeah. Yeah, let's get some coffee. All right, Michelle, I'm kicking you back to the studio. And I'm going back to the studio. So everybody, we'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Traveling near New Boston, Michigan? Hungry? Well then, you need to check out New Boston Coney and Grill tucked away at 37005 Huron River Drive. With daily specials, homemade soups and desserts, and a staff that makes you feel like family, you will not be disappointed. Give them a try for dine-in or carry-out at 734-606-5313. You can find their page, including their menu, on Facebook. Bon appetit!
Three minutes left, everybody. Just 3 minutes. Minutes left, everybody. Get ready. 2 minutes. right, everybody, we're back. All right, welcome back, everybody. We're going to get things kicking here for the last segment of the show. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Quick announcement. We have our very second member. Ghost Dragon has become a YouTube member. Thank you, man, very much. We appreciate it. Now you get to have your little own Michigan UFO emojis in chat. So enjoy those, and also access to a members only community section on YouTube. And I'm working on figuring out all of that stuff, and maybe we'll put up some videos and some behind the scenes stuff that goes on to get everything ready for the show. Some people like that, and we'll just have some open chats and stuff going on. So thank you, Ghost Dragon, very much for becoming a member. We really appreciate it. Guy asks, what the hell is a member? Dead serious. Well, now if you look underneath the video on YouTube, you see a button next to, I'm not sure because I'm looking at it from a different angle, but there's a join button. If you click that, you can become a member of the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Army, or something. I don't know what we're going to call it, but $3 a month is all it costs to become a member. And I will do some certain things behind the scenes and stuff. You know, it all depends on how much time you can invest. So yeah, so most excellent. So we are here. Is Michelle here? I know I hear coffee.
I am here, and I've got some ideas too, guys. So
hey, there we are. I thought maybe you went outside and fell asleep or something.
No, I needed to go get more coffee because, again, I'm asking what the is sleep right now.
Yeah. So we're going to bring Bill back on here in a second, but we are currently talking to Bill Konkolesky, the Michigan State Director of MUFON. And when I bring him back on here in a second, I want to ask him about how was it working with Netflix, and because I'm a curious guy, like behind the scenes, like everything that goes on when it you know, to put something together like that and put it out on Netflix, and you know what the interviewing process was like, and what was the crew like, and you know, all that stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Bill Konkolesky back on. Hey, Bill, welcome back.
Yeah.
So what was it like going back with Netflix and talking about the 1994 Western Michigan UFO flap that was tracked on radar by Jack Bouchon and being chased around by the sheriff department over there, and incredible sightings? So
yeah, it was definitely. So when I joined MUFON again back in '93, this event happened shortly after I became a member. So like fall of '93, I'm coming in as a member. Spring of '94, suddenly this mass sighting in Michigan, over 300 witnesses, including the police and the radar returns and everything. I'm like, wow, this is going to be like this all the time, isn't it? And I just happened to have snuck in right before, you know, one of our big ones. And so for me, that's always been a special event. I was too green. I didn't have my field investigator training done. I was just, you know, onboarding and excitedly hearing all the updates in the meetings and, you know, in the newsletters. And so this was one of the things that got me exceptionally fired up, this particular event. Now, about 20 years after this, the UFO hunters, I'm trying to remember the exact year, I don't remember, but UFO hunters approached us and said they wanted to do something about this particular event. And they put it in an episode with other UFO events from Illinois. And I think they call it UFO Emergency is the name of the episode. And it was good. Any coverage of this is good, but it didn't, you know, scratch that itch for me. This was a huge deal, as much to me as something like, say, the Phoenix Lights, or, you name your big UFO event. This is up there. This is a major deal. And it had yet to have that sort of attention paid to it. And so when Unsolved Mysteries reached out and said that they wanted to do it, I provided some of the names of the folks who were on the show. They had contact information for other people, and we had a good enough lead to start making inroads to see if we could do something worthwhile with this. And I was deeply, deeply impressed with the final product. And I feel finally satisfied that this event has gotten the level of attention that it really seriously deserved. This nice, long, single episode focusing on the event. Back when it happened, back even when UFO Hunters was getting involved in it, you had Jack, who was not yet retired. I don't know if Officer Velthouse was retired or not, but since that time, both retired, both very ready to talk about the event. And so we were able to cover it with you couldn't ask for a better job from the production.
Yeah, when I saw that, because I think I told you this before, the episode, I was told to watch the episode before the one with Jack Bouchon, because it was about a coach that his wife's brother was murdered, and they did an episode of that, and I worked with them at the school I'm at right now. So that was the show I was told, hey man, you got to watch this and see what's going on. And I was like, oh my God. And I left it running in the background. When the show was over, I just let Netflix do its thing. And I came over to the computer and started doing some work. And I could hear in the background, I didn't know Jack at the time or anything. And I could hear the talking and them talking about UFOs in Michigan. I'm like, what is this? What is this? And I'll tell you, outside of talking about Michigan specific incidents, outside talking to Ray Szymanski, who did the Swamp Gas My Ass book and his other little trilogy book that goes along with that, it was one of the best put together UFO shows and episodes about something, and especially something in Michigan, which at the same time that was going on the west side of the state, there was stuff going on with triangles on the east side of the state that seems to have been overshadowed. I don't know if many people didn't report what they were seeing on the east side of the state, but like our friend here, Guy Merritt, in March of '94, he had a incredible triangle sighting. And like I said, Shirley came to his house to interview him about everything that went on. And there was a couple ladies that reported being abducted at that same time to MUFON. And eventually one of them was pregnant, and she was told she could never get pregnant and ended up having a child. It's and I guess that's kind of what sparked my question about how many of these are abduction cases as well. Like, it was just very fascinating. Now, do you have any other, well, let me go back a minute. The amount of people that did reports on that west side of the state in '94 with all that was going on, what do you think the real number is of people that saw those, I guess there was more than one UFOs on the west side of the state? Do you have a gut reaction to, okay, you guys got 300, but really about 30,000 people saw this stuff?
Yeah, it's always tough to speculate out that far. You have several layers of when somebody sees something. First of all, they're like, am I going to do anything with what I just saw? Because sometimes people see strange things and they just block it out right at that moment and go on. Sometimes they ruminate on it a while, wonder if they should tell somebody. That person could be a friend, a family member, whatever. And then there are several layers that it takes for somebody to say, hey, I want to tell this to somebody that's official, the police, military, grassroots UFO organization. And so I think they have to go through several steps before they say, yeah, let me tell this UFO investigation group about it. And then, CUFOS, they got their share of the sightings, and then and other groups possibly that smaller groups dove into. I would say the estimate is easily over 1,000. Beyond that, I don't know, could be 30,000. You're right. But it's clearly a lot more than 300 people who decided that they would go on record and actually say something about this.
Well, Michelle was telling me during the break, I want to make a quick announcement for people that might be listening or watching on Facebook. When you type into chat in the Facebook, the comments under the videos, all that shows up on our side of the screen, because we're using the StreamYard software, is it just says Facebook user. And sometimes StreamYard and Facebook don't necessarily agree very well. So we don't want anybody to get upset out there if we don't say hi to you or anything like that. If we usually see just Facebook user and it's on a slower night, we'll say, hey, Facebook user, how's it going? What's your name? Kind of a thing. But if we got chat flying through here tonight, people are excited to be talking about their experiences in chat. Please don't get upset. We're not ignoring you. Just jump over here to YouTube and say hi and get in here in the chat. And then if you got a question for Bill, we'll be able to ask that. But again, don't get upset. Just come on over and jump into YouTube chat and we'll talk to you. So yeah, as Ghost Dragon says, chat is happening tonight. Yes, it is. And I'm going to ask chat, did you guys think of some questions you wanted to ask the Michigan MUFON State Director, Bill Konkolesky, tonight? So come on, chat. Let's get some questions out there. I know you have some. Somebody had asked earlier about sharing some of your experiences, Bill. And then you kind of went into that with the light, the orb that you were dealing with when you were in high school. But what's one of your other ones that you've had to deal with?
Okay. I'll start, and depending on how time goes, just sort of with the UFO sightings themselves. There, I was sledding age, I'm trying to remember if this is 9 or 10. I have it written down. In fact, it's in my first book. It was winter. There was tons of snow back in the early 80s and back then. And so there was enough snow that when we shoveled our driveway, that you could actually hop on a sled and get a nice little 2-second ride down or whatever. Yep. And so I was doing that one night. And then after I got a little bit tired, I laid back on the sled and I was staring up at the sky. And I saw this white ball of light, like a star, looked like about same size as the rest of the stars, flying across the sky. And then whenever it would look like it was going to collide with a star, imagining this as a two-dimensional plane, space as a two-dimensional plane, it would move around it. It would zigzag around it. And it was flying across the sky, zigzagging around the other stars in the sky, very cleanly, neatly, very quickly. And that doesn't make sense at all, obviously, because these stars are literally light years apart. And the only way that this display would be meaningful is to somebody looking up at the sky from Earth, from the vantage point that I was in. But it was very clear. Anytime there was a star, the thing would move around it. The little star I was watching would move around it. So I wanted a second witness. So I ran to get my older brother, but he decided as a joke he was going to lock me out of the house. So I'm pounding on the door saying, there's a UFO out here. There's a UFO. And of course, he thought that was my, 9 or 10-year-old way to try to trick him to open the door. And then after a moment, he opened the door and he saw I was serious, and he came out. By this time, it was gone. So I thought that was an interest. I mean, you could really read into that. Like maybe it only wanted me to see it and not him to see it. I don't know. There's that. I mean, you could really go down the rabbit hole on that one. But another of the big ones and that I had in terms of seeing something was, it was early 90s, 90, 91. I'm still living with my folks. And I fell asleep watching television. And as I was laying there in the middle of the night, this bright ball of light, turned out to be about 2:30 in the morning. I saw the spotlight move through the bay window into the room very quickly. And then another one, and then another one. I'm like, what's going on? I couldn't hear anything. It was summer, and the TV room was sort of the front room of the house. Like you walk right in from outside and there you are, there's the TV, whatever. And the screen door was shut, but the main door was still open. So if there was any noise associated with this, I would have been able to easily hear it, but there wasn't. So I climbed up and I looked out, and I saw very fast moving craft going through the sky, zipping through the sky. And I walked outside on the porch to take a look at it. And yeah, they were triangular shaped. They were black. They had sort of a scoop in the back and just a single bright white light under it, a spotlight. And as they would fly overhead, the spotlight would shine at my house. I know I'm taking a tremendous leap from the, say, the objective observer data collector to something that's very clearly interpersonal with these things by talking about this story. But yeah, they were flying overhead super quick. Like I estimate there was probably 3 of them, and they could cover the distance of the sky instantly. And the way they moved was a sort of interesting sort of sliding effect. I don't know how better to describe it. As if they weren't moving in a natural way that I understood, but they were being pulled from one part of the sky to the other very quickly. And that's what I can tell of the story about. Really going way out there, but
yeah. Well, you do have a couple of books out there, Experiencer 1 and Experiencer 2, which does chronicle your experiences. And speaking of Facebook users, we get an interesting question from Facebook user. Sorry, we don't know your name.
I was just making getting ready to make a comment to this.
Yeah, Black Cubes over DTW. I've seen some weird things over DTW terminal. Have you ever had anything reported to MUFON about UFOs or sightings over Detroit Metro?
Yeah, there's one that's actually kind of amusing. It was, it would have been September 2004, September 29th or 30th. Here's me like being good with dates all of a sudden. So, but I talk about this one in my presentations sometimes. So that particular early morning at about 4 a.m, people said that they were seeing bright strobing white lights around the airport that would zip really quick through the sky and clearly weren't airplanes. How we found out about this, maybe this is the best way to tell it, was Dick Purton was a well-known radio host in Michigan. Excuse me. Had a show on the station WOMC, and a guy called in with this report. He said, hey, this is what I saw this morning. I saw this bright strobing light moving through the sky very quickly. I pass by the airport all the time. I know what normal aircraft looks like, and this was not it. And so Purton says, hey, well, if anybody else saw this, could you please call into the station? And turned out 2 more people called in with the same report. So he had 3 different witnesses on his show to this strange phenomena this morning. Probably not what he intended. He might have just been surprised by the first caller and playfully put out, to say, hey, anybody else call? And then unexpectedly, he's on his show with 3 UFO sightings. So on a station break, he actually called the airport, and they said they didn't see anything. And he asked, if their radar, possibly picked up anything. Now, these sightings were right around 94 and 275, right in that general area. And so the airport said that their radar doesn't go that far. Apparently, whoever he was talking to said their radar doesn't go that far. And for those of you who don't know, these 2 roads are pretty much right on the edge of the airport.
Yes, they are.
So if you were not afraid to fly before, no. So obviously they were just blowing them off. But yeah, that was one that was interesting around Detroit Metro Airport.
And no identification of what those were at all, what they might have been. No, just strobing lights, and then they would move hyper quick through the sky, strobe a little bit more, zip around again. Okay. Well, Guy asks, has Bill ever heard of cases where some people see a craft and others who should have seen it seem to be seeing nothing? Yeah, I love this. I love this right here because when Michelle and I saw our triangular UFO there, even though it was 2:30 in the morning, there were other vehicles and stuff out.
We've tried for the last 5 years trying to track down anyone who saw the same occurrence, because we saw other cars on the road.
Yeah,
there were other cars on 275.
Absolutely.
There were other cars on Ford Road at the time. At least like March of 94, not only, the over 300 accounts of what happened on the west side of the state, but we've been able to solidify accounts on, our side of the state. And then one of my coworkers just recently also gave an instance in detailed story of something that both her and a girlfriend had seen in March of 94. So,
yeah. So what do you make of that, where you can have 2 people, multiple people, one person sees something and nobody else sees what they're seeing?
Yeah, there's several different approaches you could take to this one. One is, and this is diving a bit deeper, is that that there are people that are open to the phenomena. They can see beyond the veil, if you will, and they will tend to see things that others can't because they are connected in ways that other individuals aren't. Sometimes people bring up the whole story that when the first big wooden ships came over from Europe, the people that were here couldn't even see them because it wasn't in their reality. And so maybe something along those lines. I do have one story that was pretty dramatic and pretty strange that deals with just this very thing, and in the area, actually somewhat the area of where you guys saw it, at least the area of the state. In 97, a guy reported, and I'll tell the story of how I got the story and then how I got back to him, because I think it adds to the story. He left a message on my cell phone, and wait, was it 97 or was it 2007? Okay, no, all right. So it was 2007 he called, but it was about a sighting he had in 97. Okay, so because I was like, did I have a cell phone in 97? I did not. So anyway, so it's 2007. The guy calls about this thing in 97 anyway. So he reports that him and his wife were driving to work into Ann Arbor. They were driving north on US 23, and it was early in the morning, about 8 in the morning, and they saw this thing glinting in the sky at the distance. And as they drove further, as they got closer to it, I should say, they saw that there was a giant thing just hovering over the road, and it covered the entire northern lanes of traffic. And when they got even closer, they saw that it was pyramidal in shape, not a triangle, it was an actual pyramid, and it had sort of a brushed chrome surface, black beneath it, with two sort of lights coming out of it that looked like it might have been either a spotlight or some kind of propulsion. And to make it even crazier, this pyramid had some sort of hieroglyphics on it. And so he said that as they were driving north and they were getting closer to it, they pulled over, and several people, there was a large group of people watching this thing. And that other people were just driving through it as if they didn't see it, as if it didn't affect them, as if it was a bigger shock to them. Like, how come everybody isn't freaking out? How come some people, there are no accidents, people parked off to the side all over the place. There's only a limited group of people outside watching this thing. And it was just frozen in place, just hovering there. And he said then it jerked just a little bit. It pivoted just slightly. And then everyone freaked out, like, oh my gosh, it's moving. And then it started to spin faster and faster, he said. And then it shot off into the sky at tremendous speed. And he said within literally like 2 seconds, 2 jet fighters flew over. And so then they went on their way. And so the reason I bring up, he left a message on my voicemail, is because I was at the point where I was turning in an old phone and getting a new phone. I didn't realize that I had downloaded his report. And so when I got the new phone, I'm like, oh, darn it, I lost his report and I don't know how to get in touch with this guy. But several months later, I actually found the voicemail, and it was transferred over in a little memory card to my new phone. And I listened to it. And so I'm like, okay, good. Now I'm going to call this guy back. And so it's 6 months later, and I call this guy back. And I said, I'm so sorry. This is what happened. I want to hear your story again. And he told it exactly, pretty much word for word, as he had told it to me 6 months earlier. So there was no substantive change in his story. Like, he didn't leave his wife out. He didn't describe the object or its activity or the jets. He described it exactly as he did. And he was surprised to hear me call. I called from out of the blue, and yet he was able to repeat it exactly as he had left the voicemail several months earlier. He claimed that there was a police report made on it because he said one of the people there was a police officer. But I've been able to find anybody else. And he was just absolutely flabbergasted that this most astonishing thing in the sky, some people gave it that, the astonishment it deserved, and other people were like, I'm on my way to work. So,
yeah, it's really something. A couple of other little things here in chat I'm going to bring up that are from, again, Facebook users, so people watching us on Facebook. And then I want to show you some of these photos in a couple videos that came into us just today, like 20 minutes, half hour before we started the show. But
are you going to show the picture that I sent you?
So
from Canton? No.
Oh, I don't have that one from Canton.
Oh, you better
send
check
it
your
to
messenger.
me again. In the meantime, so Facebook user says in 2011, me and my wife and 2 sisters were around 100 feet from a hovering red-orange Tic Tac. Tried to report it to MUFON, but the person didn't believe me. Now, that's generally something that MUFON investigators wouldn't necessarily do or say, but you guys are made up of volunteers. I mean, maybe you could speak to this a little bit. I don't know anything else other than the stuff that's shown there.
Well, we're only seeing part of this right now.
Right.
So when the person says that MUFON, the investigator, I'm assuming it wasn't an investigator, of course, didn't believe them, what did they say?
Yeah.
What was their response? So it's not just a matter of the individual reports something and MUFON says thumbs up or thumbs down, and then there, if it's not what the person if MUFON can identify it, they'll tell you this is what it is. But to say they don't believe them, I mean, it seems like it's a credibility thing there. It comes across as the investigator says, you don't come across as credible to me, rather than saying, oh, you saw this? We've identified it. I've identified it for you. This is what it is.
Yeah.
Now, if MUFON did make an identification of that, and again, I don't have the case in front of me. I don't have the details. I don't, know the investigator, the witness, or anything. But if I were to speculate just based upon that, I would say it was possible that the investigator identified it or believed they identified it as a sky lantern or Chinese lantern. Red, orange, that's, because it's basically you stick a candle in a little plastic bag, let it off, and it is reddish orange, and it does hover. And if it's 100 feet away, I don't know. I'm just speculating here. I don't know the additional details.
Yeah, there's not a lot of information there. And, when you contact an investigator or you put it in a report, you might be set on what it is that you think that you've seen. And when they investigate, they have a good explanation for it. And, it's something maybe you don't want to hear. I mean, obviously we're just speculating on, a short little paragraph on information. But yeah, so anyways, I want to jump over to the possibly the same Facebook user or a different one who happens to say, because I find this interesting, psychic phenomenon versus nuts. I think that's supposed to be nuts and bolts, like nuts and bolts craft, like built. So what I think that's like people seeing UFOs or something and other people next to them not seeing it. Have you guys delved into some of that UFO, versus psychic ability, people seeing things that aren't there, but, some people might be psychic and can see something or something along those lines? Like, how does that work?
Okay, I guess I have two answers. One would be as a MUFON representative and the other as an individual.
Yep.
So MUFON is finely tuned to do what it does best, which is to try to identify things in the sky that people have seen. And there are fairly clear parameters that are encouraged not to be crossed in terms of poltergeist phenomena, cryptids, etc., whatever, saying that, not saying those phenomena are valid or invalid, just simply, please let's stay on this page of investigating UFOs. And so I guess if there's a few different ways I could have read that question/comment too, but I suppose that MUFON is as about as nuts and bolts as you can get. Not to say that other stuff is valid again or invalid. It's just their focus. Now, my encounters personally growing up were, I've seen a ghost, I've had all sorts of poltergeist activity happen. I've gotten pretty much the full suite of what's weird. And to me, the whole scope of phenomena in general feels connected.
Yes.
And there are times where, I've spoken to, I remember this conversation I had with Chris Bailey, a ghost investigator here in Michigan, great guy. And we were talking about cases where people might report something to him as a ghost or me as like an entity, an extraterrestrial. And without much more than a simple detail of there was a dark figure in the house with me, then it depends, then that person, the witness's filter comes in, and then they'll go to whichever group that they think can best serve them. but there are some phenomena that seem to be crossover phenomena, and even there have been a lot of Bigfoot sightings around UFOs, and as a MUFON representative, I'm not going to say more about a Bigfoot, but as myself, yeah, absolutely, why not? I mean, why, if Bigfoot was simply an animal, then more evidence I think would have come forth by now about finding remains or other evidence. But if there is a paranormal, extra dimensional, whatever side to the creature, then anything goes, I suppose.
Yep. So I'm going to share a photo right now while I get one that was just sent to us, and I want to make sure that I share it properly. I don't want to give away too much information from a person who sent this in, Janice, in chat. So I need to get that ready to go. But I'm going to share with you right now what Michelle was talking about, and she can give you some details as to where this comes from and what was going on with this. Let me see if I can blow.
Do me a favor, send me or share the second one. So I sent you one that's edited with all of the.
Okay, hold on a minute. Let's see here.
I did a little.
And I want to thank the individual for discussing their sighting.
Absolutely.
But the person a moment ago that we didn't have more details on, I don't mean to at all sound dismissive. I'm just saying that it would be nice to know more.
Oh, I told them in chat to try reporting again.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so
Go ahead and give him some background.
This photo was sent to me from one of my coworkers that had seen it shared on a group page in Canton, Michigan. Well, lo and behold, Canton, Michigan is where Wayne and I saw our triangular craft. And this is in the area, she had said, oh, let's see, Palmer and
Lily.
Lily, yeah, it was like Palmer and Lily area. So, and I know that there is a small airport over there, but I did not think that it was utilized as much. It's more for like, small jets, personal craft, things of that sort. And so the buzz started going on this particular Facebook group out of Canton, Michigan, about what was being seen here. And what they were reporting that they had seen was a triangular craft. And this is just within the last week.
Any reports come in, Bill, that you know of recently from that area with triangular craft? This is like the best picture they could get. I'm assuming it was moving pretty fast. I don't know what kind of other information was given. And by the way, people that are listening to us on the podcast, if you want to see the photos we're going to be showing here, get over here to YouTube and check out the video.
Well, I'd have to pull up our most recent reports, like some from over the weekend, but from the picture, there's not a lot to tell. Certainly the best version of the picture is always the best picture to investigate. What it appears to me is that the person intentionally, sometimes there are pictures where somebody said, oh, I just took a picture and then this was in it. Well, this looks clearly like they're taking a picture of this, because I'll tell you, it looks like even the vehicle is in motion.
Yeah.
You see the headlights coming, you see the blurred, the light posts and electric wires. And it seemed like this person really made an effort to get the best picture out of this thing.
Okay, so here's what I will tell you, because there were multiple reports in the chat. It said definitely coming from the sky, not sure what it is. A family member is on the road in Canton right now and said a lot of power outages and DTE all over the roads. Someone also said that they heard it because they were talking about a rumbling sound from it. So whatever this craft was, it was a rumbling sound. And they said that they were also near that Lily and Palmer area. Let's see. Now, somebody had said that they thought it might be a plane heading into Willow Run. The problem is it was going the opposite direction. So that would not be Willow Run. I know where Willow Run is, near 94.
Well, it could have been taken off from Willow Run and going somewhere, but still, I mean, that doesn't look like any light patterns that I would know
we
of from
see
an
it.
aircraft.
We see planes all the time. We
Yeah.
live by DTW, so I mean, I don't know, the two lights there. It's hard to tell if there's a third one. Seem pretty flat against the back end of it.
Yeah, Ghost Dragon says it still don't look right.
Yeah,
it doesn't.
I mean, there would be other lights too if it was a plane.
Yeah.
But they have, another Canton resident said this has been slowly happening more and more often for a month or so near their home in Canton.
Well, if those people are listening right now, or this feed is still going on with this picture out there of people talking on social media, if you saw this thing, please put in reports to MUFON.
Yeah,
let them investigate it.
A direct copy of the image and the ability for an investigator to do certain things, like if we have the best approximation of time and place of this sighting, like if the image has good EXIF data on it, for example, we can see if there were any aircraft actually listed at the time going in a direction, that sort of thing, getting the rest of the details from the witness of where exactly it was and things along that line. So at least that could be included in the possibilities or discounted from any possibility.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting image. I'd like to hear the description that goes along with it, what it actually looked like to the witness.
Yep.
It's hard to tell if the light is coming off the object or being reflected off the object.
Yep. I totally agree. Let's get the people that are doing the training right now to investigate.
Well, it sounds like this was taken during the time that we had 2 days of severe storms. So power would have been completely out in this area.
Mm-hmm. Well, but then, who knows what, if clearly the headlights are in front of the vehicle here. So I don't know if it's catching lights from off the road.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. I agree. So people, get what you need to do and get those reports out there. And Facebook user says, love you guys. Thank you so much. Hey, you are very much welcome. Possibly a TR3B. I am one Facebook user, whoever you are. I am one that does not believe about the TR3B. Me personally, I've looked at the plans or whatever that float around out there, and to me that makes no sense. But that's just me. Maybe I'm wrong. That's fine. But everybody, we are here with the MUFON Michigan State Director, Bill Konkolesky, and we're getting ready to wrap things up as we are putting him on the spot with some photos sent in from our listeners who are like, please show these to Bill. Ask him what he thinks. So here's one I want to show you. Janice, who's in chat right now, sent us this very interesting picture. And it's an awesome mini pin.
Aww.
Okay? Great dog. What a beautiful picture. I mean, just well done. But she said that nobody saw this when the picture was taken or afterwards. There was nothing there, but it showed up in the picture. Bill, putting you on the spot. What do you think?
So, do you have the entire image? Is this the entire
That's
image?
it.
It looks okay. Can you pull back so I can see everything?
Yes. There we go. That's the complete picture.
Okay. What I am looking for is something that is reflective enough to put that in the picture. That's what my best guess is going to be. It's a very intricate looking image. I won't deny that, but it looks just like a light artifact. It doesn't look like it's actually something that's physical in there. It looks like just something that developed to me as part of the photo.
Here's something that might be a little juicier, a little bit of info on the picture. She says this was taken in the evening in Phoenix, Arizona in the 1999-2000 year range. And we know about we know what was going on in Arizona and the Phoenix lights and everything. Very interesting. I love that pattern in there, whatever that is. And the fact that nobody else saw it at all, just only in the picture. Maybe more paranormal than UFO.
Well, and she said if you look at it closely, you can see colored lights glowing on it.
Oh, yeah. It does look like there's like a glow around it. Okay, very interesting. I mean, Janice, you might want to write this up and send it to Arizona MUFON with whatever information you can. See if anybody else picks something up.
And since this was a flash, besides just simply being a reflection or of something, it could be a dust particle, and that's how when the light hit it.
Okay. All right. So now for our last sets of pictures and videos, because you were talking about your first experience of the orbs, and it immediately made me think of the pictures that were sent to us just before the show. So I'm going to kind of click through these so you can see the progression and then the videos that go along with it. So this was in June. This series here I'm going to show you. So there's the same picture, a little different. You can kind of see the trees. I don't know if you can or not.
No, it's difficult for me to get that level of resolution that you're able to see.
Okay.
But I do see sort of a jagged line. But to me, when the object moved further down the image, those jagged lines moved. So I didn't know if that was just something that the light was doing, how far it was casting out the light, or if those are the tops of trees.
Okay. And then he said that he was trying to play around with some enhancements and stuff like that. So he sent me this picture of the object. And here you can see some good ones that are down here in his reel it's like lighting up the tops of the trees. This was what got his attention. That's out his bedroom window of his house. And he saw this light zipping, kind of going from up and down. And he snapped a picture. And here is the video that he took. This one's 8 seconds. No, it gets better though. Here is the most recent video. This is a longer video. He is looking out the window. It looks like he's maybe in a mobile home park, and you can see some lights, but this thing moves very strangely, and he happens to say in the video, that thing is back again, and it's moving all over, changing colors. So right here. So this is out the window. There's some other homes right here. And here's this thing coming down. At first I was thinking, okay, satellite. But then that's not a satellite.
Oh, wow.
Does it land again? Does this mean you're going out to the woods?
So you're seeing it go behind the branches.
I mean, it's getting low right now.
Now watch what it does.
It's right there again in that same spot that it was the other day.
Those are my work shirts you brought in.
Nice.
This is from my window in my house.
And
now
look
it
at
just
that.
turned blue and changed direction.
It did a 90-degree
blue
turn.
And green.
Blue, green.
And it moved to the right. Way
Wow.
off to the right.
This is one of the best ones I've seen. And then it stops. Now, there is reflection on the window here from, it looks like maybe a camera.
About
But
200 to
it's not
400
mirroring
yards off
this
the
at
ground
all.
right now.
Yeah, it doesn't match what the light's doing in the background.
It looks
and
like
it's
over here.
two lights,
It's really,
not
really
one.
low. Or, you know.
And he said he did not do a report on this, and I told him, do a report on this. 'Cause
Yeah,
this is
what is it?
fantastic.
What is it?
Ghost
What's over
Dragon's
there? What are they
asking if
building?
it could possibly be a drone.
It's straight red right now.
It would be very highly lit to be visible at that distance.
Yeah.
It would have to be
really
quite large, and the whole thing would have to be lit up.
I was going to say, for the
They're
folks
not.
listening to just the audio, you need to jump over to YouTube and watch this.
Yeah. You got to see this video. This is one of the best ones I've seen sent to us.
I can't record.
And look at it. You know, and he
And it
even
just-
asked, where is it going? What's over there? I mean, he lives there. He obviously knows.
It clearly passes behind objects.
Yeah. And it starts, look how high up it starts. And
This angle throws me at first.
Yeah, it does. Because he's like looking up on an angle out the window.
You know, certainly it would have been much better to be outside.
Yes.
And also have the audio available from outside to hear if this thing was making any noises. One thing that's an advantage to the way it was filmed is that certain things
it's
remain
getting low right
static
now.
inside
Yes.
and outside to be able to see that it's the light that's moving. It's not the camera
It's
that's
right
moving.
there again in that same spot that it was the other day.
So this was sent to us by a listener on Facebook. Let me get his name real quick. It was Gary had sent that to us. Man, just out of the blue. And he says, we're definitely not alone. So I told him, I said, please make sure you fill out a report on this and, you know, get information. Maybe he can even send you the video.
Okay, I'm looking up recent cases just in case.
Okay. I'm not really sure where he's located. I know he's here in Michigan. Let me see. I asked him if he could give me some details, but you know what? That's a great thing that we can end the show on tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Before you go, Bill, can you give our listeners and people out there that might see something, some best, I guess, what do I want to say? Like, best tips and tricks on filming stuff, what they want to try to capture, date, time, temperature, location, GPS coordinates, et cetera, et cetera. You know, what is the perfect thing that MUFON would want to receive as a report? What information?
Okay. So first of all, I'll say it doesn't look like just a quick glance that it has been submitted, but please do. That's really something.
Yep.
So if somebody is going to film something, ideally you want to film it without a barrier, a pane of glass in front of you. If it's possible, I know sometimes sightings are only like 3 seconds, 5 seconds. And in that case, well, it doesn't really matter anyway, because you're not going to get to your camera in time. But if you are able to film something, film it outdoors so that the issue of reflection or refraction doesn't come into the equation. And then make sure that you film something else in the picture with it. If there's a tree, another building, something to demonstrate what is the object or light's movement versus what might just be attributed to a hand shaking around. And, you know, you might think, well, I want to just zoom in on this thing and as much as possible, but often that is unfortunately not useful. These and Jack Bushong is if would tell you at length about that, that, you know, the cell phone cameras aren't built for telescopic, you know, filming. What you're going to get is a big blur, and it's more useful to have a drawn out image where you can actually track the movement of whatever's going on with something else in the image to show again that the movement is attributed to whatever's it is that you're filming, and not just the fact that you can't hold the camera straight or steady.
Yeah. What about other information such as temperature, like what else would you want from somebody to be aware of to send to you guys?
The exact time of the sighting is ideal. Weather can be looked up. The cloud cover can be looked up. Air traffic can be looked up. The exact time, the exact, you know, a perception of distance, a perception of size is useful. Length of time of the sighting, that sort of thing. But yeah, really the exact time of the sighting allows us to fill in so much of the data on our side of it.
Okay, perfect. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hate to cut this off where we're cutting it off. I see some people saying, don't go. But, you know, we're at the 2-hour mark, almost 2 hours and 5 minutes, because time flies when you're having fun. And so we're just going to go ahead and get ready to go here. If you want to send us any of your material, and we can forward it on to Bill and over to MUFON, if so need it, hit us up at mi.ufo.podcast@gmail.com. Also, you can find MUFON simply at MUFON.com, and you can find Bill's writings over on Amazon, correct, Bill?
Sure. Yeah, they're there.
Yeah, so you can find his books there, The Experiencer 1 and Experiencer 2. I believe, isn't there a subtitle or another part to
Yeah, the first one is Raised in Two Worlds, and the second one is Two Worlds Collide.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, Raised in Two Worlds, and then When Worlds Collide. Absolutely. Okay.
Yep. And then the other thing besides exact time, if you are not at home, to the best of your ability, the exact location, obviously.
Awesome. Okay. Exact location, the best that you can get. Yes. All right. Well, Bill, it's been great as always. We love having you on the show and getting the latest information and having these chats with you and sharing things from our listeners. And
yes, thank you for coming on tonight.
Yeah, all the new experiences and stuff. So most excellent. So Bill, we want to say thank you, and we will talk soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again so much, everybody. Thank you. And hopefully we'll talk again very soon.
Yep. Have a good night.
Take care.
Okay.
All right, Michelle. Whoo, what a night. It's been awesome. I love having Bill on. It's a great conversation every single time.
So and great conversation in the chat tonight, everyone.
Yeah, chat, you guys were amazing. Thank you for the super chats, super stickers,
great questions,
PayPal, the questions, Ghost Dragon becoming a member.
Great photo from Janice. That ring, that colored ring around that craft and the details.
Yep. And Janice, I'm going to send the original photo and the one that you did of a close-up. I'm going to send those right to Bill so he can get a closer look at that as well. And Janice says, fantastic, Bill, and you guys. Well, thank you very much. And we definitely love doing this for you guys. And it teaches us something every time we do one of these shows. And we just can't thank everybody enough who comes and watches and spends their Saturday nights with us.
Tell everyone who is coming on with us next.
We have Rob Switek from MUFON International. So
it is the month of MUFON. We hit the local, now we're going international.
Yep. that will be the 29th of September, so at the end of the month, and be looking for a special show with Michelle and I, and maybe a surprise guest. I will be releasing a thumbnail about that maybe in the next week or two. So we got to see what our schedule looks like. So absolutely, man, this has been great. So Ghost Dragon, thank you very much. Janice, thank you very much for coming on and sending that photo to us. Gary out there in Facebook land, Bob, who's out there, who sent us his story. We'll let you know if we hear anything from people in the area that remember the 2019.
And Diane, she's like, I missed it.
And there she is. You can never miss our show. You can never miss our show.
And watch it.
You can always go back and watch it. It'll be saved up here forever. So, all right, everybody, we're kicking out of here. Michelle.
Have a great night, everyone.
Yes. Have a great night, everybody. And remember, keep those eyes to that sky.